lecture series on soft computing in computer science. In this presentation, what we are going to see is introduction to artificial neural network. So this presentation starts with introduction to the pattern recognition, and I will ask some question for insights about who is good for pattern recognition and why he is good for pattern recognition. Then slowly I will enter into the topic called biological neuron and understanding the basic functionalities of biological neuron, from which we need to think about how a computer can be made as a good pattern recognition system, for which there should be a resemblances between biological neuron with the artificial neuron. From that we need to understand what is the functioning of an artificial neural network, and basically we will go into the definition of artificial neural network, followed by various classifications as well as architectures of artificial neural network. Let me go into one by one. As I said in the last presentation, the task of soft computing are pattern recognition, decision making and optimization. Out of the three tasks, pattern recognition plays a vital role. So what is meant by pattern recognition? In general, a pattern is an object, a process or event that can be given a name, right? So if you look at the pictures, you might have see some patterns like fingerprints, iris, face, palm, handwritten characters as well as some signals. So all these are called as a pattern. Now what is recognition? Task of identifying this pattern is recognition. Now combinedly what we can say, pattern recognition, it is nothing but act of taking in a raw data, that means you are taking in a raw pattern as well as processing it to take action based on the category of the pattern. So this is what a pattern recognition is all about. Now my question is, who is good for pattern recognition? If you could see that in general humans are good at pattern recognition. Why so? Because humans can perceive everything as a pattern effortlessly. But what is the demerit? Because of the more computation time taken by the human being. Then what else? We have, on the other hand, we have computers. Why we need to go for computers? Because for certain case of problems, computers performs better than the human being. So in terms of computational speed, one has to go for computers rather than human being. So in modern days, there are lot of demands are arising for automatic pattern recognition system. So in order to create an automatic pattern recognition system, we depend solely on computers or something else machine to do this task. So from this presentation, what I am trying to convey to is, even though human is good at pattern recognition, he is taking a lot more time in order to process the pattern, whereas computers are very good at computational speed. So when we want to deploy a automatic pattern recognition system, then we will depend purely on computers as well as machine. Why human is good at pattern recognition? We should analyze that point also. Why? Because human has the wonderful ability to learn from the experience. How is it doing? Because of the wonderful organ called human brain. This human brain is treated as a collection of information processing cells. There are enormous number of information processing cell. Let me count approximately as 10 to the power 11 one information processing cells are there. That is 10 to the power 11 number of neurons are there, and these neurons are highly interconnected with one another in order to form a vast as well as a complex network architecture or network like structure. If you look at it, see, the brain has lot of functions, and the basic functions comes under the idea of processing the informations. So when you look at any advertisement, say for example any advertisement that dealt with some health drinks, you may always see a brain, right? When there is a television advertisement dealing with cooking oil or any other oil based recipe, definitely they will show a human organ heart, right? So when a health drink advertisement is sold, so what is the purpose and what is the objective of the marketing strategy of those health drink advertisement? They will say that the child's brain growth will be very higher and the child's ability to process the information will be very higher, that is memory power and all, right. So in general, when we talk about pattern recognition problem, human is good. But why so? Because of the wonderful structure human brain. Why? Because the human brain is treated as a collection of or connection of highly interconnected information processing cells called neurons. Approximately there are 10 to the power 11 number of neurons are present in the human brain. So here it is very much essential for one us to understand the operation of biological neuron. Before understanding the operation of biological neuron, you should know about what are the various parts of the biological neuron. If you look at the neuron in a microscopic view, you may find that there are four major parts are available. One is soma, second one is dendrites, third one is axon, and the fourth one is synapse. So let me explain this idea with dendrites. So dendrites are small fiber-like architectures that forms the input connection to the main part of the human brain, that is neuron. So what is the main part of the neuron? That is the soma, where it is a cell containing the main nucleus where the information processing is carried out. So dendrites are the one which carries the information and it is poured into the soma, which is nothing but a central part of the neuron. From the point where the dendrites have connected to the soma, there is a small bulb-like organ. If you look at it here, there is a small bulb-like organ. So this is dendrites. The dendrites are collecting informations and it is about to enter into the soma at the point of juncture where we find a small bulb-like organ, and that bulb-like organ is going to be synapse. Once the informations are fed into the soma via axon, so what is happened in the soma? There are two different kinds of operations has been performed in the soma. So that we need to understand very properly. So the first thing is the informations are getting accumulated. Say for example, if you are listening to the lecture, simultaneously you may have some dreams, or you are noting down some points after listening to the lectures, or you thinking about some relevant ideas related to the lecture. So at one point of time, everyone is doing multiple tasks, and all these tasks enter into a human brain via these sensory organs, these dendrites. So when you look at this, these informations are entering into the dendrites and get collected in the soma. So while the dendrites are getting these information into soma, there is a small bulb-like organ synapse which is also been added with the input information as a weighted sum, and that information is entered into the soma, right. So in this soma, what has been carried out? So if we look at it, the soma is getting information, but the soma has a definite predefined capacity. So until the capacity has been reached, it starts consuming the information. Once it crosses the limit, it will start eject that information. Remember, there are two operations. One is accumulation of information, start accepting all the information as and when it comes, and another one is ejecting the information from this neuron to the neighboring neuron, and the ejection of information is carried out via axon. If you look at the picture, so in this soma, the information is processed and the processed information has been taken out from the axon. See this long connection extending from the cell body and carries the signal. This is called axon. Likewise, we have many axons here, axon, and this is axon, this is axon. At the end of the axon, again what we have? Again we have synaptic caps, and from which dendrites are arising, and the dendrites are joining to the neighboring neurons. Likewise, how many number of neurons are there? There are 10 to the power 11 number of neurons. So once again I am repeating the operations. There are four major parts in the biological neuron, that is soma, dendrites, axon, synapse. So, it is the duty of the dendrite that carries the input signal, and that input signal is been weighted sum with the synapse, that is a small gap between the dendrites and the small, that gap is a small bulb like organ has been available, and it is called a synapse, and that information is taken by the axon, and the information is poured into the soma. At first the soma will consume all the information. At one point of time, due to its limited capacity, the soma gets activated, and the activated soma will start to eject the information, and that ejected information will be passing to the neighboring neuron via axon. So, likewise the information is going around on all the neurons, maybe it is counted up to 10 to the power 11 number of neurons, and all these 10 to the power 11 number of neurons are going to process this information. Finally, it is helpful to understand what that pattern is all about. So, this is what the basic functional principles of a biological neuron. So, now what is our duty? So, in order to create an artificial version of this particular neuron, we should understand the biological functionality of the neuron. So, this is what the biological action. From this biological action, we should decode two operations. One is accumulation of information, another one is ejection of the information. Let me go into the next point. So, how a computer can be made as a good pattern recognition system? Once you understand the basic operation of a biological neuron, then you should be in a position to say clearly the answer for this question. What this question is, how a computer can be made as a good pattern recognition system. So, in order to make this computer as a good pattern recognition system, so what you should do is, you should simulate the function of a biological neuron. As I said, what is the function of a biological neuron? One is accumulation of information, that is the first function. What is the second function? It is nothing but passing of the information. So, in order to make it as a mathematical operation, so that we can create an artificial version, the function 1 may be treated as a operation equivalent to summation or net input calculation. That is, when the informations are keep coming in from the dendrites and via synapse and via axon and get into the soma, it keeps on coming up. That is, the informations are getting accumulated. So, this operation can be mathematically treated as a summation operation, or otherwise called by the same calculation of the net input. So, what is the second function? Once the soma gets filled up, or once its information accumulation has reached its predefined threshold, it will start ejecting information, that is the passing the information from one neuron to another neuron. So, someone is there to watch whether the soma has reached the capacity or not. So, what that someone? It might be any threshold, that means a limit, or some activation functions, or something else operation is required in order to eject that information, that means in order to produce the output from the accumulated information. So, this is what the two operations that one has to do mathematically in order to make a computer as a good pattern recognition system. So, to simulate, what we have to do, you have to identify the equivalent mathematical operator for the function mentioned. What is the first function? Accumulation function. What is the second function? Passing of information, for which also you have to design a mathematical model that processes the information. If you do so, then what you can do is, you can achieve the task of the human brain. So, human brain has to be resembled in with respect to artificial system in terms of two aspects. One is knowledge acquisition through learning, another one is storage of knowledge. So, whenever data is fed, or whenever some information is fed, the informations are acquired as a knowledge through processing, and that acquired knowledge has to be stored in the synaptic weights. So, these are the two ways where which our artificial version is being resembled with the biological version. So, how can you make a computer as a good pattern recognition system? We should understand the operation of your brain. You should understand the operation of your brain. There are two major operations. The two major operations has been mathematically notated, and that two mathematical notated operation has been hardwired, and that hardware is entered into a machine, so that the machine will behave as a good pattern recognition system. This is what I am going to try to say, right. Next. So this is what analogy between biological neuron as well as artificial neuron. So what are the components available in the biological neuron? As I said, there are dendrites, right? There are dendrites and cell body, that is a soma, and you have axon that takes the output information, and there are two operations. As I said, the two operation had to be mathematically notated. So the summation operation is mathematically notated as plus symbol, or otherwise you can use this symbol summation operation, and the threshold operation has been denoted by this symbol or sometimes like activation function. So when you want to make a biological neuron to be in par with the artificial neuron, all the major parts of the biological neuron should come into the artificial neuron. So what are the parts that we have discussed? Dendrites, soma, axon and synapse. So where the synapse are there? The synapse are available in every connection. So the synapse is available in every connection. So it is the duty of the input connections that act as a dendrites, and over the input connections we have some other parameters called synaptic weights or simply weights, over which you need to calculate the weighted sum. So that weighted sum will be monitored once it reaches the particular threshold, over which it gets activated to produce the output in the axon. So in general, when you denote a neuron as a circle, in general when you denote a neuron as a circle, that means when you denote a neuron as a node, then you have two operations to dealt with. What are the two operations? One is the summation operation, that means the calculation of the net input. Another one is the threshold operation, that is nothing but the calculation of the output. These two operations that you should remember whenever you discuss the artificial version of a neuron. Let me go in depth about the functioning of a artificial neuron. So while you want to understand the functioning of a neuron, what are the things you have? You have a set of input vectors, say x0, x1, x2, x3, etc. up to xn. They are treated as input vector, and those input vector are connected with some corresponding weight vector like w0, w1, w3, etc. up to wn. So what we will do? So this input vector x0 has to be multiplied with the w naught and has to be summed with the next input vector and weight vector. So this is nothing but the calculation of weighted sum. That is, if you do so, the weighted sum calculation, what it happened is x naught into w naught, right, plus x1 into w1, right, plus x2, likewise it goes. So this is what the duty of the summation. Once the summation part is over, then what you need to do is you need to apply the activation function. You need to apply the activation function. The reason why we need activation function, the reason why we need weights, and there are some other parameter like bias, why we need all these kind of stuff in order to understand or in order to make the artificial neuron to be more effective for certain kind of problems, we will discuss in the subsequent lectures. But as of now, what you need to do is you need to understand there are set of input vector. Those input vector are multiplied with the corresponding weight vector, and the weighted sum is calculated. Over the weighted sum you need to apply the activation function, and after application of the activation function you are producing the output y. So this is the basic principle of the operation. So once again I summarize this operation. So when you want to calculate the output y for an artificial, from an artificial neuron, then it should be the sum of a function over the input. It should be a function over the input. What is that function? It is nothing but calculation of net input. Say for example, if it has n number of nodes, then it should be I equal to 0 to n, where you have to calculate x I w I. So what is the expression is coming? So in order to calculate the net input, it is nothing but summation I equal to 0 to n xi wi. So this is what the idea of understanding the functioning of the artificial neuron. So this can be further explained with the help of the video. I am invited you to listen to the video. So if you look at the video, this is a biological neuron. information flow is there from dendrites to soma. Once the soma has reached, see, if you look at this video, the blue colors are the information coming in and the red color are the information that has been processed. So, for which if you want to design the architecture, inputs and has been connected with the output, and for each input you have a connection weight and it has been multiplied, and in the soma you need to do two tasks, one is summation task, another one is threshold task. So, it is summation, product of input and output. So, this is what the idea is all about. Right. Now, I have a hope that you understand the functioning of an artificial neuron. So, now one can design or one can define an artificial neural network. So, what is artificial neural network? First of all, it is treated as a parallel as well as distributed processing system. Why is it so? Because it contains enormous number of neuron, right? In biological brain, the number of biological neuron is 10 to the power 11 number. Likewise, in artificial version also, you can have enormous number of neurons, and all neurons are highly, massively as well as parallelly connected architecture. So, what we can do while we are going to define an artificial neural network, we should view this artificial neural network as a parallel as well as a distributed processing system consisting of huge number of simple and massively connected processors. Why I am calling that as a processor instead of node? Because it is the node that processes the information. That's why we may call them as a processor. So, this is the basic as well as the fundamental definition of a artificial neural network. But as a colloquial way, we can define the artificial neural network. Let me take that way. So, first let us take this word network. So, what is network? What is network? It is nothing but connection of something, right? If I say something, instead of something, if I say people, then it is a social network. If I say computer, then it is computer network. So, what is network in general? It is nothing but network of something. Here, then you add the next word, right? This is the first word and this is the second word. Then you have the second word, neural. So, where this word neural comes from? The neural comes from the word neuron. So, what is this network is all about? It is nothing but the network of neurons. That means the neurons are connected, interconnected in a highly parallelly massive manner. And how these connections are going to be? These connections are going to be in an artificial manner. That is three things. So, the artificial neural network can be colloquially understood by the term itself by looking in the reverse side, right. So, first you need to define the word for network, then you need to define the word for neuron, the neural, then you need to define the word for artificial neural network. But the exact definition what would be is, it is nothing but a parallel as well as a distributed processing system that process the information to arrive at the output. Very particularly those kind of processing is essential for carrying out the task of pattern recognition, right. With this idea, we have lot of artificial neural networks are available. So, all those classifications are based on either on the idea of architecture or based on the learning algorithm. According to the architecture, the artificial neural network can be classified as feed-forward neural network, feedback neural network, recurrent neural network, competitive neural network. Likewise, we can have enormous number of classifications. With that, we are going to see one by one in the subsequent lectures. Likewise, with respect to learning algorithm, we can say that supervised learning neural network, unsupervised learning neural network, reinforcement learning neural network, still more are there when you want to classify the neural network in terms of learning algorithms. What are the developments that are happened in the neural network? So, right from the 1943 until now, there are a lot of developments are there, and I have listed here only the 50 years developments right from 1943 to 1990. The very first model is McCulloch-Pitts model, followed by Hebb, followed by perceptron, Adeline, coherent self-organizing map, Hopfield network, back propagation, radial basis, counter propagation, adaptive resonance theory. So, in the subsequent presentation, we will going to see this Macula-Pitts model, this Hebb model, this perceptron, Adeline model, then we are going to deal with the backpropagation neural network, then radial basis function network, then followed by the coherent self-feature map, then the adaptive resonance theory. Then we enter into a other part of the neural network model. So what we can see is these days what are the network is very popular, guys, you know that this is deep neural network. So when I want to say about what is a deep neural network, we may treat all these neural network as a conventional neural network. So as against the word deep, I can also say by the name shallow neural network. So originally whatever we can call by the name artificial neural network. So in order to understand the fact of deep neural, we may also call this as a shallow neural network, because there won't be any more number of layers when compared with the deep neural network. So this is what we are going to see in the subsequent presentations. So let me summarize this presentation. So what we have seen in this presentation, we have seen what is pattern recognition and how the patterns are identified by human being, why human is good at pattern recognition system, and what is the need of the industry as well as need of the society. We need a automatic pattern recognition system. In order to do an automatic pattern recognition system, we need to create the artificial version of our human brain. So in order to doing so, we need to understand the biological version of the human brain. So the human brain is composed of 10 to the power number of neurons. So the presentation also conveys the various parts of the biological neuron as well as operation of the biological neuron, and how the operation of the biological neuron can be taken in a mathematical way, and how that mathematical model has been simulated as an artificial neural neuron, and from which how the artificial neural network has been evolved. So all these things we have seen.